Welcome to the Pitch of Discontent. Owen back again for a weekly Roundup episode. You will notice no Paige this week. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Owen.
How you doing?
Good. I'm very good. I'm very sweaty, and I'm hoping that the smell doesn't come through the camera.
No, it will not. But thank you very much for subbing in this week as our guest host with Paige away. I thought about just doing this one by myself, which is kind of what I used to do for the audio-only stuff. But then, like, the split camera thing, I was like, do I just do like an empty chair? Do I like
Sit the cat?
Do I cut the cat in? Like, how do we do it? But no, this is much easier. You just came from a gig?
Yes, sir.
What were you doing?
I was filling in for signals.
Beautiful. I'm pretty sure we featured them on the pod last week.
We did.
Excellent.
You mentioned Poetry of Spite.
Yes.
Which in my tabs of information of how to play the song is called Jolly. So when I looked at the set list and I went, where is Jolly? I was very confused.
Is that like the demo name, or is that more of like a vibe indicator? Like it's a jolly track?
No. It's maybe actually, but I assume it was just the demo name.
Okay.
I hope. But yeah, just came from that. We had Slow Burn open.
Beautiful.
Which I love those boys.
Mm-hmm.
We had Saving Face then play, which I also love those boys. Ricky is like the nicest man I've ever met.
Sorry to drag you away from the Starve headlining set. Did you catch any of them before you left?
Oh, of course. Yeah, you weren't my top priority for about 10 minutes.
That's okay.
But no, I gave them a heads up and just said thank you. Said bye to everyone.
Yeah.
Did what I had to do. And now I'm here.
Cool. Thank you very much. And you've met Reese, the studio dog.
Oh, dude.
He's tried to hump you in various places. So
I don't blame him.
Yeah, you're all...
I do, actually. It's concerning. I don't know why he would want to.
In addition to filling in on bass for assorted bands, what else do you do with yourself? Educate our audience on who you are and why you're here.
I finally committed to a band and now playing Gravitate, which
Great
is
band.
Oh, it's a nice full circle thing because they were the first band I took photos of coming out of the COVID. Like, hey, you got to isolate for 2 weeks and then you can live in Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the first band I saw. Like, I don't know. I just gelled really well with it. I've always liked them, always enjoyed them. And like you've heard the new stuff. I was learning the new stuff and I couldn't stop smiling.
Yeah, the new stuff is dope. The EP that they've already released is like really, really good.
Yep.
I just think they're a great band. I saw the support with you playing for Terminal Sleep the other week. That was dope. Great set. That was actually a sick show because like even though you guys were you the first opener? Was there a band before?
No,
you?
Identity Era were before us.
That's right. But the room was full
for
the entire show.
Best bit.
Yeah, it was dope.
And like, especially for Kat, who is the drummer for Identity Era, she filled in for us as well.
That's right, yeah.
So like, shout out to Kit Kat and also getting the crowd she deserves because that was sick. She also just did a vocal guest spot for Saving Face, and I'm like, she's crushing it.
She's everywhere.
Dude, it's awesome to see.
Very sick. And then you kind of cheekily mentioned taking photos. So you are also a photographer.
Yeah. Loosely.
Loosely.
Yeah, just show up to shows, take photos.
I mean, we've used your photos for several episode thumbnails. So like whether people are aware of it or not, you've definitely been like a part of the show for a while.
Yeah. It's weird because after 2 years of only 2 years of doing it. Now I'm like, all right, maybe I should start taking this a little bit more seriously instead of burning the candle at both ends.
Well, you've been doing a little bit of like touring stuff as well. Like you did some stuff for Heaven's Gate, last month? Maybe a month before? June? Maybe?
Yeah, June.
Yeah.
That was fun. We toured in a camper van, like Winnebago looking thing.
Nice.
Which I was like freaking out beforehand, being like, do you guys know the Burdekin Hotel? Where are we going to park? Blah, blah, blah. It was the sickest thing. My advice to anyone getting it is do a tiny bit of research beforehand. Look at streets, make sure you can park it. But it made such a difference, especially I was crushing the night drives.
Yeah.
So they all got to sleep, played an awesome set. I'd drive overnight. I'd be so overtired taking photos, but it was
What were
worth
you
it.
listening to on these long night drives? Was there a particular podcast
no.
about music that you may have been listening to?
I did listen
I'm just
to a public playlist that I made that you did drop some songs
I
into.
did. I remember doing that. Okay.
Yeah. It was primarily that. It was a mix of remembering like that Good Charlotte don't suck. I mean, they do, but at the same time, couple tracks.
There was definitely a period in my life where the punk that I listened to skewed heavily to like the pop punk spectrum, and Good Charlotte were a big fixture of that.
Yeah.
And I grew out of that eventually as my tastes kind of matured and I needed something with a little bit more grit. But there was a period in my life where Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous was on fucking rotation. So.
Keep Your Hands Off My Girl is still a song I keep going, can we please cover it? It would be really cool. Just hearing it drop tuned and whatnot, but an assortment of things. Good Charlotte, Hatchie, and then jump over to Torture and people are waking up to a dude burping into a microphone.
You love to see it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, now that our audience are well accustomed with who you are and why you're here, should we jump into the show and run you through the roundup this week?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Subscribe now to the Pitch of Discontent Patreon to receive access to extended cuts of our bonus episodes, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content, monthly Patreon-only episodes, member-only votes, the TPD community chat, and much more. Go now to patreon.com/tpdpod and join for as little as $5 a month. That link again is patreon.com/tpdpod. Thanks for watching the show. All right, so first up for this week, I have the new track from Brizzy Alt Rockers, The Comfort. Are you a fan of The Comfort?
I'm raw dogging this whole list, and
Okay,
I
beautiful.
do not. I feel like I know The Comfort. I feel like I know the album cover that's like blue and it's two people with their back together.
That is What It Is to Be. That was their first record.
Yep.
Great record.
Cool.
One of my favorites. They also had another album in 2022 called Experience Everything, Live and Die.
Fun title. Very Hunter S. Thompson kind of vibe.
It was very like cosmic themed. It has just like stars and that sort of stuff on it.
Okay, cool.
But this is their first bit of new music since that record. And they were with Grayscale for those albums, but I think they're independent now, just kind of doing their own thing.
Cool.
So this track that they've released is called The Weight of the World. It's a heavier track. It kind of alludes back to their early material. I'm thinking of like the Love EP from 2016, if you're familiar with that one. But they initially intended this one for a heavier side project.
Okay.
And I remember messaging Liam and Dom from The Comfort, and we were kind of like talking about it. And they're like, yeah, we're doing this side project. Kind of sounds like Under Oath. Here's a song for it. And then fast forward like 12 months later, they're like, nah, we're just going to drop it as a Comfort song. Fuck it. So here it is.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? They're recorded with Callan Orr, who has worked with Dream on Dreamer.
Yep.
And I've got a quote here from bassist Dom Harper, who says, we decided that this had to be a Comfort song, despite its clearly different style to what we usually write. I guess we found that once you add the vocals, it becomes the Comfort. Lol. There are a few other heavy songs similar to this floating around that might one day make it out of the vault, but this one felt like it couldn't wait. And then lyrically, I would say that this is pretty much business as usual for them. Like they're very much into like dealing with depression, finding the optimism in life, existential themes, all that sort of good stuff. But I've got another quote from guitarist Liam Holmes, who adds, we have this newfound abundance of information, but the same lack of power to affect the awful things that we are witnessing while we watch the people with the power to act do nothing but succumb to greed. Cool.
It sounds like the existential crisis I was having last night.
Yep. Definitely relatable subject and themes, but cool. All right. Well, let's jump into that one. This is The Comfort, The Weight of the World. What'd you think?
It was good. It lyrically, it kind of reminded me of all the fun cosmic poetry that Adrian from formerly of North Lane used to write, which is
like
stuff,
the singularity type
yeah,
record.
the stuff like that, where it's like very introspective.
Yeah, like I've had a couple of chats with Dom and Liam because they're, like full disclosure, friends of mine, and they're very much interested in, like consciousness and psychology and philosophy and stuff. Like they're very like introspective, intellectually curious guys. So their lyrics are always like relatable in terms of dealing with shit that everyone can deal with, like feeling fucking depressed and sad. But
I mean, it also kind of, is relatable right now where everyone's opening their phone when their alarm goes off and going like, oh, cool, there's been another bombing.
Dead child.
Oh, meme, dead child.
Meme of dead child.
But yeah, no, it's also interesting to hear after listening to Tim Minchin last night talk about how.
Wait, what?
Well, no. Like I didn't see him. It was a reel.
Okay.
It was doom scrolling, and then hearing,
I was like that's a tangent we could talk about. Okay, so what did Mr. Minchin say?
But he brought up that maybe we don't need to be we need to find the boundaries of our empathy so that we don't get bogged down by essentially what they're singing about, where it's like seeing everything and feeling the weight of the world, where it's like physically the empathy muscle that we have can't carry that.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Earlier this morning, I was watching a live set of Misery Signals.
Of course you were.
Listeners would know that that's a wild thing for me to be doing. Well, they were playing
Notice he didn't.
In Summary of What I Am, after playing A Victim, a Target, and then before playing, I want to say Labyrinthian, but anyway, there's 3 songs.
Yeah.
Dog. But no, they were playing In Summary of What I Am, and there's that line. Oh no, it's a line from The Stinging Rain, maybe. I don't know, whatever. Fact check me, I don't give a shit. But one of the lyrics is like, we are not meant to contain the sadness of this world.
Yeah.
And I was like walking around the house and I was doing laundry and shit. And then I've heard that line 1,000 times. I've listened to Of Malice in the Magnum Heart 1 billion times. But at this particular moment, that kind of line stuck out to me. And I was like, yeah, Jesse was really cooking with that one because like that kind of speaks to what you're talking about. Like there's so much suffering and fucked up shit in the world that like if you try and take it all on, you end up becoming like paralyzed with empathy and grief and sadness. And then if you're trying to help people and trying to make the world a better place, like how are you supposed to put positive energy and action out into the world when all you're doing is like just being like, fuck, this sucks.
Yeah, which is, what they're saying, where they're feeling the weight of the world
burden.
Crushing me.
And I mean, the album artwork is literally like Atlas, like the dude holding the fucking planet.
Oh, that guy.
So, yeah. It rocks. Sonically, it does sound like Under Oath.
Yeah,
so, I mean, like
immediately.
I could
like,
see what the guys were working with.
Not a huge Under Oath fan, but I was transported back to high school when A Boy Brushed Red had come out, and I was like, I remember this sound.
I mean, with that heavy kind of like outro, it's skewing more towards like Define the Great Line in terms of like when Under Oath had that like bit of grit and heaviness, but still like super catchy and melodic.
Yep.
And it's what I would expect from Liam and Dom if that's the type of shit that they're on. So, cool. Yeah, dope. Let's pivot to the next song. So this is a new band on my radar. They emailed me and dropped an album into my inbox, and I was like, okay.
That's always fun.
That's always fun. I'll listen to it. They are an outfit from Montreal in Quebec.
Okay.
And they're called Horse Doctor. Are you familiar with Horse Doctor?
No, but this could go so many ways.
It could. So they have a sophomore album out called A Place for Us. It is out now in full. You can listen to it on Bandcamp, Spotify, all those good places. And in terms of their own description, they say it swings wildly from high-intensity screamo down to down-tempo, 90s-inspired post-hardcore.
Okay.
So, like, if that's the spectrum, they're, like, kind of ranging wildly on that.
Yep.
I would say that it kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, Rival Schools, if you ever listen to them.
No, but I remember the video games well.
And then this other reference point, like Archers of Loaf, more on like the indie side, maybe a bit of Fugazi, like very much like 90s shit.
Yeah.
But it's good. And the band are currently spread across Sweden, America, and Canada. So not sure how they managed to pull an album together, but nice.
There's a way.
And fun little fact, they got together to play at the drive-in covers, and then the musical chemistry was so good, they were like, oh, let's just do our own songs.
Did they specifically like be friends in Sweden, Canada, and
No, so I'm pretty sure they're all from Montreal.
Okay.
And now they're currently like spread around.
makes more sense.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's a crazy thing to do.
Yeah, so not sure what they're doing in terms of, it's probably just like moving for work or whatever, but currently they are a geographically spread out band. But I mean, people have made that work, so
Frontiera.
It's not impossible. Let's have a listen to one of the tracks from the record. This is Horse Doctor Live Feed.
Cool.
All right, thoughts?
Yeah, that's 90s as fuck.
Yeah, very much
And
so.
also immediately you hear the at the drive-in cover band sound.
Yeah.
Like the clean guitar that builds into like just everything that can make a noise, making a noise.
Yeah, I think the like kind of more plaintive, soft, like picked like intro building into that kind of like pop for the chorus.
Yeah.
is very like at the drive-ins moving into a like Rival Schools kind of thing, which I love both of those bands. So like merging those two sounds kind of works.
Yep.
And I've listened to the whole record a bunch, and they are kind of right with like some of the songs are a little bit more abrasive, a little bit more intense. So like you can get the screamo signpost a little bit.
Yeah.
But then all of the tracks are fairly like riffy and catchy in that kind of like alt rocky kind of way. So I don't know. I like what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm interested. I'll definitely be going back to it as someone who recently gave At the Drive-In a listen and then had it on repeat for 3. You can shake your head all you want. There's so much music out there.
The youth.
But no, I spun that for like every day, every hour for 3 weeks, and I never want to hear it again. So I'm keen to dive into this.
Yeah, sick. Let's pivot now to something a little bit more intense. Are you familiar with death metalers Undeath?
I know the name, and you're going to be surprised when I say I don't know them.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, well, if you don't know them, I'm guessing you haven't seen them live?
No.
Because they were here
Yeah, they were here.
last year for...
They're coming back with
They
Gutless?
are, yeah. They are, yes. So they're touring here later this year with Gutless. That'll be their second time over here. But I saw them play a sideshow from... God, I can't remember the name of the festival now. Lachlan's going to kill me. It was like Into the...
Oh, Into the Breach? No, that's a video game I like to play.
What was it called? Into the... Future me is going to fact check this and just put the poster up.
I can picture the poster.
But I can't
I can picture the
Into
guy.
the Fall?
Oh, that's close. We're both probably wrong.
Probably wrong.
I could probably tell you half the lineup.
But yeah, Gatecreeper were the headliner.
Stabbing, Freedom of
Stabbing.
Fear.
Yes, that's the one. But they were here for that, and I saw the sideshow that they played in Brisbane with Gatecreeper, and it was fucking dope. It was just like contemporary death metal of, various kinds, both on display. It was dope. But they have their third album coming out. It's called More Insane. Same.
Great start already.
Yep.
I'm all about this.
It's out on October 4th via Prosthetic Records. On the release of the record, I have a press statement from the band, which I'm just going to read in full because it'll do a better job than I can in summarizing them.
Excellent.
Quote, More Insane is the biggest, baddest, nastiest Undeath record yet by every conceivable metric. It's a fucking sick death metal record for sick death metal freaks and anyone out there who can appreciate the transcendent power of a good riff played fast on distorted electric guitars. No bullshit whatsoever. Not even for a second. 10 tracks of death metal earworms crafted by 5 guys who shower just irregularly enough to evoke the spirits of the death metal ancient ones.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
That's my salute to
I'm
it.
fucking on board for that.
Yeah, as someone who showers regularly enough.
I shower too regularly, but I can still vibe to this.
Yeah.
So the record was co-produced, engineered, mixed, and mastered by Mark Lewis. And the gloriously deranged cover artwork, which I will put on the screen right now, comes courtesy of drummer Matt Browning. Apologies. And it marks the end of a trilogy of paintings, starting back with their first record, Lesions of a Different Kind. And this is a
Great
quote.
name.
Yeah, this is a quote from the band. We've zoomed out far enough now to reveal that the entire fucked up universe of these covers has taken place entirely within the collapsed and bursting skull of a rotting godhead floating in a soulless void. Everything about this is fucking tick, 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 tick.
This is
tick.
all, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I don't care what this is going to sound like. I'm so on board already.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Well, let's go. This is a lead single from the record, Undeath, Brandish the Blade.
Dust, fuzz, slash, now I am burst in the fucking blade. Go.
Hell fucking yeah.
Yeah. As someone who is recently, with kind of, not a slam resurgence, but like slam coming to the forefront, trying to remember like what I kind of grew up listening to that wasn't just My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
This sounds exactly like what I would hear from my uncle's place.
Nice.
And my uncle was a sweaty, showered regularly metal dude who played in a metal band that sounded like this. And I'm
Fuck
like,
yeah.
I'm all about this.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm like a death metal expert by any stretch, but like the death metal that I enjoy is very much on the like less techy, more just like meat and potatoes death metal sort of stuff.
Less
like,
with more, but it's sick shit.
yeah, just like bulldozer riffs, lots of double kick, make it fun,
Yep.
make it enjoyable to listen to. And we were talking about this while we were listening, and I was pointing out that there was like 3 clear, like distinctive kind of like compositional parts. There was like the first bit, right in the midway, it kind of goes into like that nice like slow down, beat downy kind of bit.
Yeah.
Then there was the solo, and you were like, whew.
Iron Maiden.
It was like it was great. But all of that happened in like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it all just felt like natural. They weren't forcing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't too jarring. The songwriting is like fresh. It's keeping your interest.
Yeah, everything about it felt good. Like you were saying, the
Yeah.
changes didn't feel forced and make you kind of go like I turned my head and went, oh, that sounds like Iron Maiden, but in a good way. I wasn't like,
Yeah.
what the fuck was that?
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I follow the vocalist on the pod Instagram, and he was doing just like a little AMA thing earlier today, and people were asking him shit about the record, and he was saying that they basically had everything written before going into the studio. So like working with Mark Lewis as like a co-producer, he basically just took everything that they already had and just wanted to get the best possible takes of that material. So like everything was just kind of like retooled, dialed in to be like the best possible version of what was already there.
Yeah, so like they had the box they knew they were going to work in
Yep.
and then could start thinking outside of it.
Yeah, and just like, how do we make this pop? How do we make everything just sound like the best? And another thing, like people are asking, like, what's the biggest difference between the previous records and this one? And he was saying that like the other records in very like death metal-y fashion were a little bit just like oppressive. They had just kind of like a nervy kind of quality to them, which like, for death metal is fine. But he was saying with this one, it's a little bit more like streamlined in terms of like they just wanted everything to be kind of like at face value. So like everything was like nice and like bright for death metal, but like in your face. So everything is like clean, but not like polished or squeaky. You know what I mean? Like you still want it to sound like death metal, but you just want everything to just be right there.
Yeah, and I can definitely hear that in that what I'm going to call the Iron Maiden part, where I'm like, this is still death metal, but there's some, it's that little bit of spice that's on top.
It's just fun. Like, I would say this is fun death metal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and if that's what you want out of your death metal, that's perfect.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely now going to make sure I can see one of the shows.
All right, let's move on to the next one. So we were talking about this off air before I hit record, but got a new track from Londoners High Vis. And they do something interesting, which is like a fusion of, I guess, coming from the hardcore scene and having a kind of hardcore punk orientation, but then doing post-punk, Britpop, a little bit of psych, just all sorts of weird guitar rock adjacent shit stuffed into like a hardcore punk band.
Left-wing blue collar.
Yeah, basically. Fucking union rock or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But the note I've got here is a Manchester groove, which is not an original term. Like that's from the press release, but that fits. Like I can see what they mean. Like it's hardcore plunk. Hardcore punk that has hooks, melody, as well as some mosh parts, some stuff that you can stage dive to, and as you pointed out, cry at the same time.
Yeah, the best kind of stage dive.
So they have a new record coming out called Guided Tour. It's their third LP, drops on October 18th through Dace Records.
Was it announced recently?
Like earlier this week.
That's
kind of what I do with the show.
Oh, really? I thought you were just serving me alcohol and making me yap.
Yes. So they recorded this one over a few weeks at Holy Mountain Studios in London with producer Jonah Falco, who is of Fucked Up, and also produced the Homefront record from a few years ago, which is spectacular.
Yeah.
Great record. And they engineered it with Stanley Gravitt. I've got a quote here from vocalist Graham Sale, who states, quote, "It's trying to be a hopeful record while also being incensed. Everyone's scratching, everyone's working all the time, and their idea of relaxing is just getting fucked up, I believe that's supposed to be, and avoiding reality. This album is an escape from that."
Okay.
So
I can get behind that.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I also should know that the band will make their Australian live debut later this month. They're part of a big package with a gang called Speed, as well as US beatdown crew Pain of Truth, and Singapore hardcore crew Foos. So
just slight tangent, but man, if anyone sees me at any of the Pain of Truth shows during the test, that's the name of the song, the test, we're not friends. No one's a friend.
Chris is going full knuckle dragger. Just like,
dude,
glasses off for this one.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's have a listen to the lead single from the new record, and we can talk about it at the back end. This is High Vis, Mind's a Lie.
Cross the line just to get by. Exhaust the fuel, we rinsed it dry. What is truth when your mind's a lie? What is truth when your mind's a lie? Face to face with all I've known.
A bit different for High Vis. I think if we're talking about the spectrum of stage diving to crying,
I'll find a way.
Skewing to the crying spectrum rather than the stage diving spectrum. But please, thoughts?
Oh, well, it was like, you know how they were talking about an escape from things?
Yes.
It's, I mean, with like hip hop in America, it's always interesting to hear, this will make sense in a moment. Don't give me that.
No, please, tangent away.
The different area sounds
Okay.
and the climate, and like how just the weather has a huge, like you'll hear it in Australian hardcore as well. Like
Yeah.
Brisbane's just fast as shit, and then you come to Melbourne and it's cold. Everyone's angry and wants to hit each other. Like there's regional tones.
Yes.
And them, yes, it sounds different for them, but if you think about Manchester and bands from there, Joy Division are from Manchester. Well, Salford, so
Sabbath.
close enough. So like it does sound different to us, but I imagine to them it's what sounds like an escape.
Yeah, and I think I completely agree. And the UK has kind of always embodied that, I think, especially when it comes to like hardcore and punk, like bands that have always kind of taken the blueprint and then like done something different with it. Like I can remember there was that like kind of beat down hardcore band from back in the day called Your Demise. And
Are they from the UK?
Yeah, and they started out as like a heavy, like straightforward beat down kind of band, and then skewed more into like, I guess like more like punkorama, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, like Bad Religion-esque kind of like punk rock sort of stuff, which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, I think even with a band like Enter Shikari, right? Like they came from, you know, like a hardcore scene back in the day, but were always very firmly, yes, thank you.
Fucking clap.
But like they wore their rave and house influences on their sleeve and still do to this day.
Which is kind of in some ways what you can hear in that High Vis track.
Like this is like an alt-rocky, punk-rocky sort of track, but there's very much like a pulsating house kind of like drum and bass groove going on there.
Yeah.
The clean female vocals like in the background while Graham's doing his like spoken word thing, but also shouting at the same time. Like, there's a lot of different layers going on there. I'm just thinking live in terms of like touring with Speed and Pain of Truth. If I see someone stage dive to this, I'll be fucking stoked. Like,
are you going to the Melbourne show?
I'm going to the Stay Gold show.
Yeah, I'll make it happen for you. Don't worry.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right. Let's pivot now to the next one. And I need to get shit sorted here again after technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, I have a team up from two of Australia's best up-and-comers. You've got Adelaide's Teenage Joans and then Melbourne's Between You and Me. So pop-punk kind of adjacent acts. They've teamed up together for a collab track called 1-800-Painless.
They're also doing a co-headlining tour?
They are.
That I keep seeing a poster for?
That was at the end of the notes, but thank you.
Oh, well, sorry. I was trying to make sure I knew who we were talking about.
Please, it's your show. Just go right ahead. Nah, I'm fucking with you. It's fine.
Crypto.
But yes, the track is called 1-800-Painless. The tour is the 1-800-Painless tour. So I believe this has all been part of a marketing strategy to push the tour.
Cool.
But the track is out now through Domestic Lala. And I would say this is just like a classic pop-punk rager. Power chords, driving rhythms, vocal interplay, a tale of romantic despair. Teenage Jones bring the, saccharine female vocal. Between You and Me are doing the, boy vocal, the Good Charlotte vocal that you were so enamored with before.
Couple tracks.
On the collab, Teenage Jones called it, quote, an absolute monster of a track, while the lads in Between You and Me said, quote, it was awesome to get into the studio with the Teenage Joan legends and write a song together. The song has all the flavors of both bands and it absolutely rips. And then, as Chris so eagerly pointed out, it is teasing their 17-day co-headline regional run of the same name, and they'll be hitting spots around Australia throughout August and September.
Cool.
There you go.
I'm sorry I took that from you.
It doesn't fucking matter.
I was just trying to make sure.
They're literally just bullet points. It's fine.
Oh, awesome.
But let's have a listen to the collab. This is Teenage Jones and Between You and Me, 1-800-Painless.
What can I say? I wanna find a way to tear my heart out. I just wanna be painless. When you go.
just want to be painless, Chris?
Often, regularly, right now.
Hand my fucking heart out. Let's go. Look, I don't know what else you can really say about that one. It's catchy as fuck. The vocals sound great.
Yep.
The interplay works. Good old classic harmony structure, like, works every time. I just think the hook is good. The song's peppy and full of step. Like, it works.
Yeah, and the let you go bit. Like, would love to see a crowd shouting that back.
Yeah, very much built for a live response,
Yeah.
call and response. Like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's nice. I haven't listened to pop punk in so long.
That's kind of the strange thing is, like, Australia, as far as, like, the alternative scene goes, definitely goes through motions of, like, certain things becoming more popular than others. But there was definitely a time when, like, I don't know, Australian pop punk was, like, really surging and was, like, a real, like, big deal. Like, do you remember the band Skyway?
No.
Yeah. So they were, like, a big band and they had, like, very much like the 4 year strong kind of, like,
Sure.
you know, like pop punk with, like, the occasional kind of, like, beat down part, like a
Doing-
Day to Remember kind
Yeah.
of shit, like, put in there.
The intro of like teenage comedy movies kind of
Yes,
sound.
That's exactly right. American Pie soundtrack shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that was like the late 2000s, early 2010s. So, like, it is all kind of cyclical in a way. But, like, we've always had good pop punk bands, but these are, like, two of the best. And teaming up together, like, it's kind of a win-win for everyone. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Also, they're doing a regional tour, which is kind of dope. And I'm seeing a lot of bands do that at the moment, which I think is smart because there are people outside of Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane that would like to go to shows.
It has been really nice, the more regional tours that have happened that have stopped in Gosford on the Central Coast, which is my home.
Nice.
And so many people have come back from it saying, like, that was one of the coolest places we've played.
Yeah.
It's on the water. It's, well, like, aside from that, it is really nice hearing how good the regional tours
Yeah.
that have happened have been.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, Australia is a big country. We don't have as many people comparative to, like, playing in Europe or the US. So, like, it can be a little bit tricky in terms of, like, routing and making sure that you can do a regional tour that doesn't just fucking lose you money with, like, time and fuel and all that sort of stuff. But if you play your cards right, if you have a good lineup and people turn out, like, those shows can be just as good as, you know, playing in a capital city when there's 5 competing shows on the same weekend.
For
you know what I
sure.
mean? Like, you don't necessarily have to divide and conquer because when you're playing in Gladstone in fucking Queensland, like, you are the only thing that people want to go to. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. What's on tonight? Oh, we could shear some sheep,
Yeah.
or we could go see.
And, like, half of the people probably are just blow-ins from the pub who are
Yeah.
like, oh, what's fucking going on over there?
But, like, also, those people coming in and, like, bumping into each other and having a good time,
Perfect.
so much better than a horseshoe pit where everyone's like, I'm happy to be here, but I don't want to mosh.
And also, because bands make most of their money through merch sales, those are the people who will buy merch.
Yeah, no, I have heard stories about my mother being notorious for that.
But I mean, like, economically, it just makes sense. So, like, if you play your cards right, you've got a good lineup, you know the good spots to go to, like, it should be a win-win for everyone. So,
Yeah.
yeah, stoked for them to get out on the road together. Should be fun.
Yeah.
Excited for this next track. You and I have already kind of talked about it in the DMs a while ago, but it is the new one from Better Lovers.
Oh, no.
So we have confirmation of their highly anticipated debut album. It is coming out on October 25th through Sharp Tone Records. It's called Highly Irresponsible. And I've got some quotes here. Jordan Buckley, who's the guitarist, shares, quote, playing and hearing our own music makes us want to run through walls. So we made a video where while playing and hearing our own music, we run through walls. This ain't rocket surgery.
I love that man so much.
Great execution there, Jordan. I've also got a quote from frontman and friend of the show, Greg Busciato, who said, quote, everyone really brought their best to the album and brought out the best in each other. And that goes for everyone behind the scenes too. I'm honestly just over here happy that I fit the word buddy into a song. So small wins for Greg.
Oh, I've been there. I have been there.
Now, before we listen to the song, you did this little downtrodden oh no. So what's happening?
Well, I have this every time I die tattoo on my what would be wedding ring because I cancelled a wedding a month before it happening.
Incredible.
And
I think we've talked about this over beers before, but like I've never put these lore pieces together. So this is crucial Chris lore going on here.
Like, I wouldn't recommend it for anyone. It was not a good time. I did.
You heard it here first, folks. Don't cancel a
I
wedding.
lost so much money, but that was my choice. I was like, look, I don't care. I just want to go. But it was a very dark time where I learnt why Every Time I Die is so good. Lyrically, but also musically. Musically, I was always like, yeah, this band is sick. Like Underwater Bimbos is one of my favorite songs to play.
Yeah.
But lyrically, I love every Keith Every Time I Die song.
Yeah.
And when I'm on stage, I try to emulate Jordan in the like shaking my head nonstop and whatnot.
Yeah.
And there's a great photo of that where I'm like, yes, I'm getting there. So it's less oh no, but like I've said to you before, it feels like a custody weekend.
Yeah, like do I spend this weekend with mom or with dad? In the
divorce? I don't mean that in any disrespectful way to my parents. I love them both to death, but like it genuinely, when I listen to Better Lovers, I'm like, yes, and especially Greg. Love Greg because of Greg. I got into Dillinger and then my brain exploded, and I think
he's a natural fit with all of those guys. Like,
absolutely,
it makes sense on paper. The execution on record sounds phenomenal. But I agree with you. Like, Every Time I Die are one of my favorite bands. I have 2 different posters here in the studio that we were talking about before. So, like, I'm totally with you. But I don't know. Like, I think like that project, for whatever reason, is pretty much dead and buried. So
which
you kind of just have to make peace with that. And I think like if what we got out of it was Better Lovers and Many Eyes, you know, like Keith is off doing his thing. He's got his journey of self-discovery. He's got a crew behind him. I also saw that in the same week that Better Lovers announced this record, he jumped on Instagram and was like, we're doing a record too. It'll be out later this year. So what you're
saying is out of all of this, we can be happy that Better Lovers exists.
Yes, exactly. We should just
just better. No,
like
I don't mean that.
You don't have to choose. Is what I'm saying.
No, I know,
You can have both.
Yeah,
it's the Old El Paso ad of like, why not have both?
Well, I can, but the reason I refer to it as a custody weekend is because lyrically, you can see the venom, and like when, you know. I don't know if you do know, but like when parents are separated, you see the good bits, but you also see the venom.
Yeah.
And like...
Look, the way that Every Time I Die, you know, came to its end was incredibly messy and, you know, disappointing to see from a fan perspective. But I mean, like, they're human beings.
Oh, like it's I don't fault them in any way.
They have to kind of do their thing their way. So like
people grow apart. I cancelled a wedding. Like it's kind of like they put out Radical, and everyone went, "Oh my god!" And then they went, "No more." And it's like, "Oh well, all right, that's that."
Yeah, and I mean, like those last 2 Every Time I Die records are like some of the best in their catalog, in my opinion. Like,
just map change is
incredible.
It's eternal.
Yeah. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the new stuff. Let's listen to the new Better Lovers song, and then we can talk about that afterwards. This is Better Lovers, A White Horse Covered in Blood. Also sounds messy.
You touch yourself on the line, but you beat it. You touch yourself on the line. You touch yourself on the line, but you repeat it. You're a special guy, won't break if you're interrogated. I got your tongue now. Oh, time to face what you've done. You've got the answer that you've always needed, that you brush aside, cause the truth was always overrated. But there's nowhere to run now.
track is dope. What are your thoughts?
I mean, like it's everything I want. It's everything I want. Like we were just saying while listening to it, it's great hearing Greg continue to do rock-based stuff that isn't just Kill or Be Killed. Because like, how often do they get together?
No, that's true. And like, I've talked about this on the pod a bunch, but like, you know, I've interviewed Greg multiple times for various projects like Black Queen, his solo shit, and we had him on the show fairly recently to talk about like Better Lovers and stuff. But for him, like post Dillinger, he was like kind of done with aggressive heavy music. So that's why he went and did Black Queen. He did his solo stuff. And then it was only like after years of doing that and kind of well into the pandemic that like his solo stuff started to take on more like angry, aggressive tones, started to get quite heavy. He started to do the screams and stuff again.
Yeah.
So you can see that like he just needed some time away from it before like, you know, he always had that talent. He just didn't want to use it. Like the way he said to me, he was like, I've been screaming so much in Dillinger that it feels like I've just been filled up with venom this entire time. He's like, and at some point that begins to poison you and begins to poison your life. He's like, and I needed to get rid of it.
Yeah, which you know, it's the same as people who write sad music. Like the singer for Black Country No Road just had to be like, dude, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I am sad. I need help.
I can't sing this every night.
Yeah. And I don't blame him. I was like off like tangent, but like Beth hadn't heard any Black Country before properly, and I put the first album on. And I'm washing the dishes and stuff, and she goes, "Is this guy all right?" And I was like, "No. He's not.
He's very much not okay."
Yeah, so it carries over the same as like being angry nonstop.
Yeah, so I think like as far as like providing an outlet for Greg to like return to that part of his like musical vernacular and like being able to cut loose and go fucking crazy on stage, which he's exemplary at. Is really, really good because like
best in his field.
Yeah, because he gets to do all of the other stuff. Like he's touring with Jerry Cantrell at the moment, so he gets to do like the full fucking like dad rock shit. He gets to do Black Queen and do horny shit, and then he can do Better Lovers and fucking scream his head off and have veins popping out of his fucking head. So like all the different aspects of his personality are catered for, and he has a solo career as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So like. Yeah.
And
love
then,
Greg.
And
Shout
then,
out Greg.
God, I wish I wasn't on tour when he was here. But then going back to the core, well, not core unit, but like everyone else in Better Lovers, you know, it feels like they haven't missed a beat.
No.
Since Radical came out. Yeah. Everything still sounds great. It sounds more dynamic and explosive than.
Yeah, and even like. Obviously, Andy's not a part of it because he's now like a professional wrestler, which is a fucking crazy sentence to.
Or the butcher. I've got one friend who's going to now hit me for getting that wrong.
But yeah, like having Will step in to fill that hole has been like, again, like a very natural fit. And he's also like producing the record and like doing all of that stuff and produced the last few Every Time I Die record. So like it all kind of like makes sense.
Which is what I was going to ask, because the way that Better Lovers sounds now, it sounds like Radical, which I don't want to keep being like, oh, Better Lovers just sounds like Radical. But it obviously you kind of have to.
It is a continuation of what they were doing because the rhythm section and Jordan are there.
Yeah,
so
and then knowing that Putney was a producer for those albums and able to continue doing that and add to it, like to help, you know, whatever he did to help make Radical shine. Yeah, he gets to keep doing it.
Yeah,
for
like
this.
in my note prep for this, like there was a quote from Will in the press release, which I didn't include, but he basically just says like, you know, having me do both parts on the album has been great. He's like, because everyone is so dialed in because I'm also a part of it. He's like, I was there writing the songs, I play on them, and then I'm also sitting in the chair helping everyone get the best performances that they need from the record.
Yeah.
Because like, so I have, you know, I can wear both hats at the same time, and that makes for a really like what's the word? Like synergistic recording experience.
And like with Undeath, he's got the box. He knows how to work in the box, and now like knowing that, he can work outside it as well.
Heard it here first. Chris, fan of the box.
Love the box.
All right, let's move on to next track. So speaking of debut records, are you familiar with Denver Punk's Public Opinion?
No. I will say no just to be safe.
Cool. They're a band that I've been following for a while now. Featured them on the show a bunch of times. They are releasing their first full-length record. It's called Painted on Smile, and it drops on September 6th through Convulse Records. This is really cool. They do kind of similar to what we were talking about with High Vis. They are a hardcore punk band coming from the hardcore kind of like scene. They have those roots, but they are very much influenced by, I would call like 2000s indie. So like Interpol, Block Party, that kind of like dancey indie punk sort of stuff.
Sure.
So basically like if the Hives were a hardcore band, they would sound like Public Opinion, is what I'm saying.
All right, I'm on board.
Yeah. So the record was co-produced by Ian Shelton of Military Gun, Regional Justice Center, as well as Taylor Young of Twitching Tongues and God's Hate fame.
One day we'll meet him.
I've got a quote here from vocalist Kevin Hart, not that Kevin Hart, who said, quote, "We really wanted to try and expand the sound of the band more. That early 2000 stuff like The Strokes, The Hives, and Block Party was really important to us when we were kids. And I think this time we let a lot more of that infiltrate into what we were doing, and we ended up stumbling on more of our own sound." And then in terms of lyrics, he adds, "It's me purging a lot of things that I feel negatively about. I think so much of my previous stuff was very fuck you, and this is much more of a fuck me apologetic kind of record." So, nice.
Yeah, I'm all about that description.
Yeah.
And often find they become my favorite albums from a band.
Hell yeah. I'm stoked that these guys are putting out an album. I've been following them, I want to say, since like 2020 or maybe 2021. Like, they haven't been a band for a super long time, but I've been following them for a while now. Let's have a listen to the lead single. This is Public Opinion, Drawn from Memory. What did you think?
It was sick. All about it. Like I said to you, it sounds like I should be hearing it on the Eurotrip soundtrack. I don't mean that negatively. I mean that in...
Respectfully.
Yeah, no, respectfully, but also like formative music.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy how much like movie soundtracks definitely like shaped musical experiences. Like, I had the American Pie 2 soundtrack on CD, and that was like
on that.
Lit, Sum 41.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Sugar Cult, All American Rejects. Yeah, it was crazy. Wild track list. 14-year-old me was like, ooh, stoked. You kind of said when this kicked in, the first like 10 or 20 seconds, you're like, that's not what I expected. What did you expect?
Oh, I wasn't sure. I guess going back to when we were talking about High Vis and I was talking about regional tones.
Yes.
Before you put it on, I kind of said, in my head, I went, what the fuck does Denver sound like? And all I could think of was South Park, which is,
not helpful.
No.
I mean, one of my favorite bands of all time is Planes Mistaken for Stars.
Sure.
And
that's a name.
They're not originally from Denver, but they moved to Denver from, I want to say like Peoria, Illinois-ish.
Sure.
Future me will fact check that with Wikipedia. But they moved to Denver because Denver had such a like cool, like popular kind of scene at the time. So like outside of the stuff that's happening on like the East Coast and the West Coast in the US, Denver being kind of just like smack bang in the middle in the Rockies, kind of just like has its own thing.
Yeah.
I would kind of say it's analogous to like Perth or Adelaide, how they're like, they kind of just have their own thing as opposed to
okay,
like
sure.
the Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne circuit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. This is cool though. And as soon as it really kicked in and it got into like the main chorus, you were like, oh yeah, no wonder Ian had credits on that.
Yeah, and I mean that in a good way, but
again, respectfully.
yeah, like it feels like I'm supposed to be jumping to it. I'm supposed to be having a good time.
It's fun. Like it definitely has that catchy, immediate quality that a lot of that like dancey indie punk stuff of the 2000s had.
Yeah.
But it is still very much like, you know, a bunch of like punky dudes playing a band.
It sounds like what me and my friends when we've just turned 18 and we're drinking on school weekends.
Beautiful.
And like what we're singing along to and having a good time.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That works. Okay, final track for the first segment of the show this week. This is the band that we were talking about before we hit record that I know that you're not familiar with. They are from San Jose. It's underground metal outfit Ripped to Shreds.
Okay.
These guys rip. They're super, super good.
To shreds?
To shreds, yes. They deliver a crushing sound full of dueling solos, grinding blasts, grimy old school death metal vocals. They're helmed by frontman and guitar prodigy Andrew Lee. Dude can riff.
Sick.
And the band are coming out with a new record titled Sun Shi. It drops on September 27th through Relapse Records. And
Cool.
This one has a morbid fixation on death and the afterlife through the context of traditional Chinese folklore.
That would explain the album title.
Yes. And you can't see the album cover, but I will put it up for our audience on the video. The cover art comes courtesy of a longtime collaborator and artist, Guan Yang, and it depicts a scene of Yan Lao Wang, the god of hell, and the dead who must face judgment in his demonic court.
Okay.
So very much steeped in like Chinese mythology and stuff.
While being metal as fuck.
Absolutely. You will get further affirmation of this when I tell you the title of the song we're about to listen to. But let's jump into that. This is Ripped to Shreds, perverting the funeral rites, stripping for the dead. Thoughts?
It's everything I wish I was smart enough to write. Okay, just fucking yawning into the mic.
Like I was saying to you off record, he is a bit of a guitar prodigy, Andrew Lee, and he definitely knows how to riff. And I'm pretty sure he got his start doing just like guitar, like reactions and covers and all sorts of shit on like YouTube. And then from that, like recruited a bunch of guys to like make a band.
Sick.
And then signed to Relapse and started putting out music. So like, it's very much just him just like, what would a band sound like if I was just able to riff on my own? and this is essentially what he does.
Awesome. Yeah, no, all about it. Going back to...
Similar to what we were talking about with Undeath too. Like that song was like 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And there was like 3 distinct sections. And like
literally what I was about to say.
yeah, I think just like that knack for songwriting is like super important.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's what I wish I was smart enough to write, but I am too busy with photography.
Mate, you're doing like 5 different things at once.
When aren't I? But same thing, thinking about the stuff I grew up listening to, spending the day with my uncle, and he's like, "You want to listen to this?" And I'm like, "This is noise. What is happening?" But it's the noise I need.
You've got a mature palate now. You can listen to this and discern the good qualities.
Oh, I can, that, and I can also look past that time I was 7 and found his bong and was like, what is this?
Incredible. All right. Well, that brings an end to Mosh Pithy and the first section of the show. We will now pivot into the feature album, which is a record that you and I have been chatting about for a little bit. But let's go ahead and do that. So for the feature album this week, there were mainly 2 records that I knew we could talk about, but this one in particular, you and I have been chatting about kind of offline for a while.
What was the other one?
That would be the new Gravemind record, Introsphere.
Yes. Very
Little-
good.
Little secret for people making their way through the episode. Keep your eyes peeled for our next guest episode.
Oh, really?
But anyway, that record rules. But the one that I wanted to talk to you about is the debut record from Plovers, Fear the Man Who Hides in Light, which is out now. It's also a somber occasion because it is their final record, because they announced their breakup before the album was even out. So
It's a bummer.
it's a huge bummer.
Yeah.
But we had them on the show last week. For people watching this, you should go check out the full chat with Jared and Dan from the band. There's nearly 2 hours of bullshit in that episode.
It was great. It got me through my workday Friday? No, Saturday.
Beautiful. Yeah, I put it up a little bit late because the edit was fucking killing me. But really, really good episode. And it was cool for them to kind of just go long and talk about everything that the band has been through, why they wanted to persevere and put the record out, even though they knew that things were kind of coming to a close.
Yeah.
And what that allows them to do as friends, as well as like, you know, musicians and colleagues and stuff. I guess like you have been a fan of Plovers for a little while, and we've talked about you like knowing Jared's other bands and work.
Yeah.
I even put a little question to him at the back of the episode that came directly from you for some inside lore there. But like, in terms of hearing the record, what do you think it represents in terms of like the band's sound and kind of what they were working with before?
I feel like it is the best example of them.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I just think that like what they do is so kind of like unique for both like the Melbourne scene, but also kind of Australia at large. Like there isn't anyone that I think quite sounds like them, and they are doing a bunch of different stuff on the record and somehow synthesizing all of it into something that sounds very unique to them, which I think is quite special.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's, you know, you'll go to gigs and you'll be like, oh, this band sounds like this. This band sounds like that.
I mean, doing a music podcast is very hard to not be like, this sounds like this.
Yeah.
This sounds like this.
I can't think of anything that sounds like Plovers.
Yeah.
In
Same.
terms of not just the music, but lyrically as well.
Yep.
How it all flows together, the different parts that they all comes to the table.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, I wanted to know a bit more about Vanguard Party, so that's why I was like, hey, can you just ask Jared about it? Let's see what he says. And I remember your response was like, we spoke about it, and my end sentence was, hope that's what you wanted. And initially I was like, no, but the way Jared described Vanguard Party and what it was, and being tongue-in-cheek incel humor.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad it ended. I'm glad he's not like that anymore.
Yeah. I'm glad that kind of like ran its course, and he was like, yeah, I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's funny because I never drew the connection to him and Jello, like in the sense of how tongue-in-cheek
Yes.
everything is. And that's something I always appreciated about Jared's lyrics, was that they were tongue-in-cheek, theatrical, and also just good.
Yeah. Like he's, you know, having only met him like through doing the pod, and like I've never seen the band play live, and I'm going to go to the farewell show to kind of like at least get that out of the way. But like, he's a super smart guy, very switched on, has a whole bunch of different musical interests, but is able to kind of bring a kind of verve to his songwriting that is like kind of incisive, but also funny and witty.
It's lighthearted honesty.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
I think that kind of describes it perfectly.
Lighthearted honesty while, trying to be honestly bleak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not kind of like pulling any punches from talking about like difficult stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it be like racism, corruption, fucking incel behavior, like misogyny, patriarchy, whatever the fuck it is. Like whatever he turns his kind of pen towards ends up becoming something that's really kind of, I don't know, just articulated so well.
Yeah, and like there must be something in the water in Wollongong because knowing Todor, the synth player for Vanguard Party that he mentioned, who is married to my cousin, but also knowing Todor, and I feel like I'm getting his name wrong every time I say it. Either way,
Respectfully.
That circle of friends, from what I remember, is friends with like Michael Cusack, who did the YOLO YouTube videos and is now making Smiling Friends, the TV show. So it like I'm not trying to make Plovers all just about Jared, because like it's not just him, but there's
it's definitely Dan and Margie as well. Like,
I think they help elevate him so much more than,
No, they've definitely got like a chemistry that I think is undeniable.
Yeah.
And I think the most remarkable aspect about the record, and, for the audience, we will play some songs soon. Like the record just sounds phenomenal. And like one of the biggest things that I learned from having them on the show was like Jared like engineered that whole record. So like kind of wild that the record sounds that big, that polished, and it was essentially just like a one-man like belabored project over many years for him to like go through with a fine-tooth comb and engineer that record.
Yeah, but at the same time, he also brought up how I think I'm remembering this correctly, but he brought up how they had everything there, and it was kind of just like, all right, let's just do it.
Yeah.
They had the box.
They had the box. But they could go outside the box. Okay, well, let's have a listen to a song. You picked one from the record, and then I picked one, so we got to split that down the middle. We'll do yours first. This is Plovers, Who You Are.
So you come to tell us who you are by asking to see the manager. Nobody wants to hear you. So you come to tell us who you are by not knowing that you've gone too far. Nobody wants to hear you. We don't want you to be here. We're not your radio. When the president is a door.
Why did you pick Who You Are as a track selection from the record?
I thought it would be a nice contrast to the song I saw you picked.
Yes.
But also, I guess primarily being a part of hardcore shows and whatnot, some of it resonates with like hearing some people, and it's like, man, not that any of them are gonna be like, oh, Chris said this on a podcast, but like, you see the fake. Better example, before I get fucking chastised when I go to a gig, Ronnie Radke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like you're listening to him like as if you're his therapist, and it's like, dude, shut the do you know how much money you have? Like, you can't feel this way. You can in like in a human way, but at the same time, shut the fuck up, Ronald.
It's very like pathetic to just kind of like be in that position and then still be doing that fucking like pig-headed, small-minded shit. It's kind of like Elon Musk. It's like you're already a billionaire. you didn't need to buy a social media platform to then like force people to be your friend and like read all of your shit. Like, how narcissistic do you have to be?
Yeah, and I do say "fuck you, Ronald" as a closet falling in reverse fan. I won't apologize for it.
I won't apologize for
Couple tracks.
for not fucking listening to it. 'Cause
Yeah, good. Don't. You're a better person.
don't care. Not for me. Not this podcast. No, circling back to Who You Are, I think it is a great song, and it was curiously the last single before the album release, which I think is kind of key. But I think that's what I love so much about this record is that each of the songs has like a different kind of quality to them. There's like some slower ones. There's the more upbeat, dancey kind of indie punk kind of ones, like Think Again. But they all still have this very like attenuated sense of lyrical purpose. And Jared is definitely talking about, you know, the issues on all of them. And kind of like what we were talking about before, like no matter what he's talking about, he talks about it in such an engaging and witty and funny way that matches the music so that it becomes this enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it's again, like I wanted to pick Putrid Thoughts, but at the same time,
Great track.
Well, I mean, the whole album, but I thought it would be beneficial to pick something that contrasts what you've picked.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a perfect kind of choice. So for people who've heard the record, I am picking one of the longer songs on the record, but for those who haven't, the track I'm going to play is Shade, and it is the penultimate track on the record. So not the closer, but kind of fittingly sounds like the closer, almost like a thematic closer. And it also has alto sax on it, which is fucking great.
What a sweet treat.
And one of the cool things from having the guys on the show was Jared talking about how they almost didn't have the sax because Margie was like, nah, I think it's a bit much. Like, do we really need that? And my answer to that is yes. Yes, you do. Is like the decision tree is like, do we need sax? And there's only one branch that says yes.
Okay,
there isn't even a no branch.
But at you being you, and you've got this sax tree that you've just brought to the table.
It's in my box. Chris.
It's in your box.
It's in my box. Okay.
Where wouldn't you play sax?
This is what I'm saying. You should always play sax.
Funeral?
Funeral. Play it over my fucking
Funeral
ashes.
for a pimp?
Yeah, do it.
Overdosing in a hospital. Careless Whisper would go hard if you're overdosing in a hospital, actually.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it fits.
Full train spotting, just sinking into the carpet. And
Diving into the shit toilet, sax. Do it.
Fuck, you're onto something.
No, outside of that, I just love how this kind of bookends the record in such a beautiful way because it is a long composition. The build is perfect. It is a somber track, but also like kind of moving and beautiful at the same time. And it just shows you the versatility of the band that they can do like fun, upbeat, jokey stuff like Think Again and Greed and Who You Are. And then they can do a long, more like measured piece of music.
It's time to feel bad.
And have it be super impactful and also enjoyable in like a sad fucking crying in the mosh pit kind of way.
Yeah.
But anyway, enough chit chat. Let's play it. This is Plovers Shade.
Nothing changes anymore. Don't know what I was before, but I'm lost without a way to know that I can leave here. There's nothing left upon my list. Just suffocation in the mist. I barely know if I exist, but I don't think I exist.
I fucking love that song, man.
Dude, where was that song when I cancelled the wedding?
It's so fucking good. And like, I mean, even without the sax, I will say it would still be just as good. The sax just takes it to like a whole different level.
Yeah.
But the way that it like kicks in that last third and really kind of ramps up. Like we were mid conversation and I was like, shh, moment of silence, please, while we hear this transition because it is just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. And I think this band really do have such crazy range on display on this record that, you know, as we've talked about, it's a bummer that they're no longer going to be a band, that they're not going to be able to tour this record. But I really think people should listen to it and at least try and get out to the farewell show to see them kind of one last time, because I think they got something special. So.
Yeah, man. It's I can only echo the same sentiment. And you know, as a Jared stan, which felt very cringe to say out loud, but like, yeah, it sucks.
Jared Hive, population 1, Chris. I guess I will put up the flyer for the show, but for people listening, I will read it out. So the final Plover show is on at the Burgee Band Room in Melbourne on the 31st of August with Turn South, the Maggie Pills, and Everyday Believer. Tickets are available. I don't think it's sold out yet, but you should try and sell it out. You should go. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for Plovers. Anyway, go listen to the record. It's fucking great. It might be one of my favorite Australian releases of this year.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
It's immediately jumped up that queue of like, I will re-listen to this for months.
Yeah, and like I came into this before all this was turned on and scared me, being like that that the Crippling Alcoholism record is like my favorite. And
there's always a dark horse. There's always something that just like sneaks in that you're not prepared for, that you're like, oh wow.
But it's very nice. It's an Australian record.
Absolutely.
And saying that, I realize what was my album of the year at the start was also an Australian record, but the sentiment remains.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Between this and Speed, those are like the two like...
Oh, it wasn't Speed.
Well, for me, Speed. But
I still haven't had a chance to sit down and listen to the whole thing.
It's so good.
Which sucks because I was, you know, in my friends' DMs nonstop being like, Speed, listen to Speed. No, it was Vovos.
Right.
Lydia Gubbin, I think the album's called.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. I'll check it out.
It feels like, this sounds weird saying out loud as a dude, but it sounds like what I imagine a girl's sleepover sounds like.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's the type of like PR press pitch that I would be like, okay, I'll listen to that.
Yeah, like,
that
what the fuck does that sound like?
Yeah, that sounds weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, let's move on from me sounding like a creep, please.
Well, that is pretty much the end of the show. I guess as someone with lots of stuff going on, is there anything you want to shout out? Is there anything you want to spruik? We're at the end of like an hour 10 here, so like for the real heads listening and watching all the way to the end, anything you want to spruik?
Nah, fuck you. Just go to shows. That's all I got. Just go to shows, keep supporting stuff. If you can't, you can't. But just keep going.
It'd be nice if you could.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get. I mean, I have to plug Gravitate because
please listen to Gravitate.
Please listen to Gravitate. But at the same time, no, just go to shows, support shows, go to shows you don't know the bands of as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for filling in for Paige while she's away. This has been dope.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. See ya. Bye.
Bye.